Welcome to Sullivan Street, where we're going to have the Butter Miracle Tour Chris early summer update. So let's say hi to Chris. Chris, this is all
Hey,
about you and your early adventure for the summer.
this is all you're just living vicariously through me, Eric, for the
Yes.
next hour. And then you'll get to do all of these things eventually that I'm
Yes.
talking about, but it's just I'm a little bit ahead of you and maybe ahead of some of the listeners.
Yep.
And so we're just putting that out there and getting the info out and talking about these things as we as things roll by. And there's been a lot like by Counting Crow standards, there's been a lot happening over the last few months. We talked about when the album was released and there
Yeah.
were all these
No.
interviews. It's been a lot and it's been fun. There's been a lot of stuff to indulge in.
No, that's true. And for those that listen regularly, as you know, we try to continue where we have interviews either with band associated people or band members or ex-band members. We love to do the album deep dives. We have other historical well, we've done song deep dives, right? Live song
Mhm.
deep dives, historical deep dives. Like in the future we plan to do something about Shim Sham, for instance. But we'd like to, even though it's in some ways dated, I guess, 5 years from now, right? Does anybody care about the early summer tour? But we do like, I know that some listeners like to hear like news and notes and what's happening, and maybe they're going to see a show on this tour. So they want to hear about what's going on. So, yeah, but first, let's talk about, for those, I guess all of you know, but there is a Counting Crows documentary
Mhm.
produced by Bill Simmons and HBO, or in conjunction with HBO.
Mhm.
From what we understand, I guess someone said the director mentioned a more specific release date on Twitter or X or Blue Sky or something. Maybe like December E. I don't know if because of long December, but at first I
I
heard
believe the
fall.
fall. Yeah, everyone
Okay,
said sort of fall.
yeah, I was hearing fall, and then someone thought maybe early winter instead. We'll keep you updated with that. But Chris was able to go to the premiere in New
Mhm.
York City. What? And it was playing at two different theaters. Which theater did you see it at?
I saw it at the General at the main sort of Tribeca Film Festival, their kind of big open theater. They played it at a couple of the independent theaters as well for a couple of times
Okay,
that weekend. But that was it was a short theatrical release in that regard. It's called Counting Crows. Have you seen me lately?
great
Um,
title.
Great title, and a really appropriate title because it focuses on the first couple of records. It focuses on and it starts. It doesn't go too much at the beginning. It really kind of starts with okay, we get signed. What's next, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then goes really deep into the making of the first record, the process of sort of the band becoming what they are, Adam's relation to that, and then the process of making the second record and what that was like. Um, my biggest the thing is I was enjoyed the most about it. I think look, if you've listened to interviews, you've read Jeff Harkness's book, you've been diving, you may not learn a lot of new factual information here. But just true generally in music documentaries. Maybe there's a few things here and there, but if you're the fan, this isn't made for you in that regard. But where I felt I really learned, there was a lot of interesting things, was a lot of great interviews with the other band members,
Hmm.
um, like Dave Bryson, Charlie Gillingham, and really the entire band of people who were involved at the time, including Matt Malley, minus Steve Bowman. Steve is not interviewed in the
Hmm.
film, although of course, if you're interested in that, you can listen to
Our
our
last
interview with
episode,
him
yeah,
and
just
get
last
your
episode.
his that chunk of that. But one of the things to not to be overly spoilery, but one of the things we've always talked about is this was sort of an Adam and Dave thing, and this sort of a project that became kind of Adam's thing. And they asked Dave Bryson very directly about that in the movie, and he's like, "Yeah, it was kind of hard when I realized that this was going to be Adam. That was a process for me to like oh, deal with the fact that this thing that was sort of us was now more him, and that I had
Right,
to kind of get in line
especially.
a little bit."
And think about it, since Dave and Adam has talked about that a bit, right? He has said in a lot of interviews recently how it wasn't right away. I think it was when they were re-recording, when they just started recording August. I think I could be wrong with the timeline, but that's
Mhm.
when he said he had to become. I'm not. This is not his words, but his word. More of a, you know, more of a tough ass, I guess I want to say, or just a little bit stricter with things and saying, "Hey, I needed to take leadership," I guess.
Right.
But to your point about Bryson, the interesting thing about that is Bryson recruited. at least two members, right? Matt and Steve said he kind of, was recruited him a bit too.
Yeah. So
So
no, it's a very interesting that piece I found very interesting, and really again through the whole documentary, the stuff that relates to the um the band is really interesting. There's also footage of them performing at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is not super easy to find. It also involves Adam discussing something called a mambo sock. That is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It was hilarious. So highly recommend that. But it's great. I mean, I think, look, if you like this band, I can't imagine you're gonna come away from 90 minutes dissecting that time period anything other than having had a great time. I don't I don't want to give too many details and
yeah.
spoiler. Though, I mean, those are my big takeaways, and there's just a lot of interesting, stuff. It was fun
Did
to hear them. I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, and
Mhm.
also, I'm guessing there'll be some whatever people talking about it on
Mhm.
Facebook and Reddit with the hardcore fans. So we'll do a in depth, where I'll take notes and stuff once it's released and talk about it a
Yeah,
little more.
I'd love to do
Did,
it. Yeah, maybe it'd be fun to do a deep dive with Jeff and see what needs to
did,
go into version
yeah,
2 of the book. The
did
one thing that I thought was
yeah.
really interesting thing. So there was a talk back with the director and one of the producers um, after the movie, and they asked, "Well, how does Adam feel about this?" And she said, like, he has kind of a complicated relationship with it. It's hard sometimes to see your life kind of condensed, and you could sort of. There's a couple of quotes in the GQ piece that sort of suggested maybe he was certain aspects he didn't like or would have done that differently. But
Yeah.
I get it. It's kind of Adam's always been someone who is wants to do things his own way, and the nature of a movie is you kind of have to give control, right? I mean, it's the director's cut in the end, and so it was just kind of an interesting thing to hear them talk about a little bit. But I don't think it's not animus. It's not like
No,
the bad. I think it was just
supposedly,
more.
yeah, I
It's
think.
difficult, you know.
Did you say complicated?
Yeah.
Supposedly, yeah. The yes, I heard that there's some things Adam doesn't love about the movie, but in the end, he actually did give it the seal of approval.
Hmm.
I don't know if that was required before, during, or after, or all three, but he has said, "I'm fine with it being released, even though right, this or that I didn't." And that happens with a lot of these. I haven't watched a lot of music documentaries. It's just not my thing. I did watch which I know is different, but I watched the Tribe Called Quest one
Hmm.
that Michael Rappaport, I think I don't remember now. I think he bankrolled and directed. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I remember that they were upset about some of the stuff because right at the end he was trying to get him to do a reunion. They ended up did have a reunion later before Fife passed away. But I just remember that they loved certain parts of it, and then I think it's going to happen. It
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, it didn't. James Campion even say that he's been working on a book with Adam, and they go through similar things, right? Because James has to do the lion's share of the writing, but he was doing it in conjunction with Adam. But Adam, wants to give his take, and I wouldn't do it this way, but in the end, he's not the writer, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's also I think it's a tricky thing. I mean, Adam's very exposed, and it's about what you reveal. And again, I think
Yeah,
some of the
I
most
get it.
interesting stuff and revealing stuff really does come from the rest of the band, and generally don't get their say. I feel like in some of these
Yeah,
narratives because Adam is the one that gets asked the questions, and so it
yeah,
was really
yeah.
interesting. And I'm sure I can't imagine all of that was super easy to hear because they were like, "Yeah, that was hard sometimes. It was not
No,
always easy." And
I've I've been uh, yeah, we've talked about this a bit. Even when I've seen some old footage that you have on your YouTube page or
Mhm.
some certain things, and of course Adam's interviewed 95% of the time. In the last 10 years, he often comes on with Emmy, like when they were in Australia recently, or a couple of years ago, and I think
Mhm.
all of the interviews, Adam and Emmy went on the TV show together.
Mhm.
So you get Emmy's take, although Emmy wasn't an official band member the first couple albums, so that's interesting. And remember, we saw some that Dan was interviewed, some of that like Hard Candy era, or even Recovering. It was kind of
Yeah.
Adam and Dan went on a couple of those shows. But yeah, Matt and Charlie. Every so often you see them speak, but not much. And Bryson, hardly ever. A kind of quiet, muted guy. So I'm very curious to hear his take. So I
Yeah.
think, how was the last thing about your experience? did you? I'm guessing. I think you told me you didn't really get a chance. It's not like you were going around, going up to people in the lobby. Hey, are you a
Mhm.
fan? Or whatever. I don't even know if you wore a shirt or anything like that. Or did other people like wear Crow shirts? Since that was the first screening, or
A
did like
couple. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't. It did seem like a mix of like fans and versus like kind of people who just like movies, kind of thing.
yes, yes.
So there was that kind of mix, and I I wasn't really sure exactly what it was gonna look like. Actually, I wore like a blazer, and I forget what T-shirt I wore under it, and I
Okay.
wasn't quite sure. I don't know. I was just kind of like, how fancy is this going to be? I didn't really need the blazer.
How many
But
people? How many people were at the little thing after the Q&A afterwards? I'm guessing the
oh,
director
everyone's.
aimed.
It was in the same room, so everyone just kind of stayed. They basically just did it
Oh,
right after.
sorry. How many people were on the stage like
Oh,
doing the Q?
three. So the Tribeca person was hosting, and then
Okay.
it was the director and I think one of the main producers.
Okay, because right, the director is Amy Scott, and the producer is someone Brian Morrow and Jonathan Lynch.
Yes,
So probably one of those
I think it was
two.
Brian,
Okay,
if I recall right.
right.
But
I
I
was
mean,
just curious, and yeah, okay, yeah. So this, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it almost reminds me when I went to the show at the Troubadour. Although that was a little different. There were obviously some hardcore fans, but it's also a
well, there
mix
were band
of
members there.
right.
There was no band members at this.
Yeah, that's true. But I was going to say a mix. There was like a lot of people that just like liked shows, or they just had connections to the
Mhm.
entertainment industry, and then there was so maybe that was the same thing, right? Maybe HBO people went to see it or whatever. I know how
Yeah,
that goes.
yeah, and there's probably I
Um,
don't know like 100 something people in there. It was decent. It was a good crowd. It was a big room. So
okay,
and it was relatively. There was a decent number of people in there. So I don't know what a
okay,
good crowd for these. I don't
yeah,
really go to Tribeca Film.
yeah.
Weirdly, I think the
That's
last time I went was many years ago for a different music documentary
okay.
about somehow I got tickets or I don't know someone gave me tickets or whatever, but to one about Kings of Leon, which was really interesting.
Oh, cool.
I like see I'm different than you. I like a good music documentary.
Yeah.
They all kind of go that same path in certain ways, but like I like them. I actually literally this weekend I just watched one about Liam Gallagher and one about Robbie Williams, and I don't know.
Oh, I know they're super popular. I mean, people love, and I think Adam was talking right because he was even what was
Yes,
the one he was
no,
saying
Led
that
Zeppelin. He was really
the
like the
Led
Led Zeppelin,
Zeppelin. He
which I
got his
haven't seen yet, but
girlfriend. Yeah. No, I know Jeff. I think has said on the podcast that he watches a bunch of them. So yeah, no, and to be in full disclosure before we move to the tour, um, I know Bill Simmons is a huge Crows fan. That was part of
Mhm.
the reason this got made, but I think the other reason it was made is remember like when the announcement came of this that there was like there's a I don't want to say renaissance, but a bunch of more music documentaries are being released this year than in prior years, right? They're
Mhm.
kind of hot right now. And in fact, on some of the news releases, the Crows one was listed, number 20th of the when they were. I forget the other one. So, but it's good. I mean, how great that we get to see one of these. So,
Yeah, and great footage. Again, if you haven't seen a lot of it is kind of out there, but it's cleaned up and it's nice, and there's a lot of good, interesting footage if you haven't dug through it. Um,
cool.
and yeah, maybe that that could be a thing we talk about when they actually release it. Maybe we do a rundown of where you can find the long versions of some of this stuff.
Oh yeah,
But
that's true. Okay, so let's go to the other part of the show. As I said, it's not a super long show. This is kind of news and notes. But the Butter Miracle Complete Suites Tour. That's the
mhm.
official name of the tour. Was with Gaslight Anthem. For most of it. So I was just looking at the schedule today. Remember, we've already said on this podcast. I mean, this tour goes on. I mean, it goes to November 1st, so let's just say end of
The
October and
road rolls
started,
on forever, as
yeah,
Adam might say.
and it started, yeah, that's right. It started early June. As he starts in Under the Aurora, here we go again.
Mhm.
So June, July, August, September. So basically 4 full months, pretty much, of a band that's average age 60, and that's a lot of shows.
Mhm.
And so for the American tour, we are about a quarter of the way through as of
Yeah,
today.
about 3 weeks
And
so far. Yeah, like so it was
yeah,
June 10th. Yeah, so just about 3 weeks.
and if you count the European tour they're going to do, we're about a six into the tour. So I say that because we're going to talk about what songs they played, and you never know. Halfway through the tour, they might start playing song X and play that every night. But
Yeah, and I will say, I'm going to note some things. If if you're really sensitive to the idea of spoilers or things that are a little bit different, I guess feel free to flip off or come back after you see the show or something. But because I will talk, because there were a couple of interesting things. I'll kind of dive into it, right? I mean,
Yeah, and Chris, let's just preface that you saw it. You saw
last
that
night
last night. Last
at,
night,
at
yeah.
Jones Beach Theater on Long Island, they thankfully they did play Hard Candy. I always get
Yep.
kind of disappointed when they don't play Hard Candy because, especially if it's on Long Island, literally it shouts out in the evenings on Long Island. But part of the song takes place at Jones Beach, as you mentioned. So it's like at a
Mm.
Neil Young show at Jones Beach in 2000 is the Silly Yellow Hat. Like, so I'm just always sort of like, I don't know, you should play it. And we're here. We're literally in the spot. He talked because they played Washington Square as well. He's like, Adam was like, maybe we always play this song in New York, and I always just feel like playing it. So I'm sorry if I always play it here, but we do, and I'm like, you do kind of play it a lot here. But again, I also
You
don't
should,
mind that.
yeah, yeah.
I saw that song for the first time when they debuted it 22 years ago now at Jones Beach.
Mm.
At my first Counting Crows concerts, the song always has a place in my heart. And so again, especially at Jones Beach, if you're at Jones Beach and you're playing Washington Square, you're taking me back to the good old days, and I'm not going to complain about that.
Right.
But some, I think, basic things about the tour. I
Well,
think we're not going to go song by song. I think I went to some
right. Oh, did
observations.
you want to say? Sorry to cut
Mm.
you off, but did you want to say? I remember that you said last time Jones Beach, the capacity. I was looking again today is larger than. It's pretty large, right? The capacity at Jones Beach, and how
Yeah,
was it? Pretty full, like.
decent size. The very top. So there's an orchestra and then 3 decks at Jones Beach. The third deck didn't seem like there was really anyone in there, but the other 2 decks were relatively full, which would put them
Yeah, this
in
says
the
15,000. I mean, if you did the
yeah.
upper deck at 50, I mean that's bigger than they play at basically anywhere. I think
Right, and that's the thing.
15,000.
I think again, I'm not sitting there with a pointer and counting, but if you think, even to your point, even like half full is 7,500.
Yeah,
And maybe it was more than I'm bad with that. Again, it's
and
like
most sheds aren't they like 5 or 6,000?
most sheds have. So Jones Beach is interesting relative to the sheds because it's a full theater, right? There's seats all the way
Okay,
up to the top, whereas most
right.
sheds there'll be that covered area that's probably
Yeah.
5, 6,000, 7,000. But then there's a lawn that theoretically, like
Okay.
PNC, theoretically seats like 20,000 or something.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's like I've packed literally every person I can onto the lawn. I think I've literally been to one sold out show at PNC in my lifetime,
Okay.
and I've been to a lot of
Okay.
shows at PNC. So that's one of those things. Whereas Jones Beach is a more like again, it's an actual a vertical theater. Really kind of love. Again, I recommend seeing a show there. It's a nice place to see a show. Muggy though was on the water, so just in terms of context, it wasn't crazy hot, but like I noticed midway through the show, I'm like, I'm just. I'm just a bit wet, right? I'm moist right now. I'm just sweating. I'm not even sweating that hard. It's just that like I've been perspiring a little bit consistently. And I'd had a bottle of water and I started drinking it down. And I was like, this feels really good. Probably should have been drinking more water as we go here. But I did think it was kind of an interesting play with the energy of the show because the crowd could have been, I felt, a little more energetic, but also I feel like it was just kind of, everyone was
Mm.
kind of heavy there.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, let's try to.
Yeah. So you were saying
Yeah,
you won't go general observations. You're not going to go track by track.
yeah. Well, and so let's hit some of the big things I think for people could expect on the tour. Right now, they've been playing all 5 of the new songs.
Right. So, and I do want to say, if they've been averaging 19 songs, right, because there's some, you'll get into this. There's some debate about, right, how much should they be playing? Are they greatest hits tour? How much are they playing deep cuts? But we do want to say they're playing all 5. Well, no, not all the time. Sometimes they're dropping boxcars.
Yeah, but
But
mostly they've been playing all 5. I think Boxcars has been a
yeah,
little
and
in
that
and out,
was
but
kind of my prediction. At least this is my hope for their set list has changed, generally in the last couple years when they're doing the sheds. We'll talk about that. But the one thing that the band has pretty much always done is played a great selection of new releases, which I
Mhm.
love because some bands do not do that. They'll play the single of the new release and maybe one other song. And even when they did, Underwater Sunshine, they were playing 5 or 6 of those songs a night. They played the whole suite of the the one a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I said, even though I almost prefer them to release LPs, The one good thing about doing it this way is that last tour they played all 4, and then this one they're playing all 5, so you get to see all 9. If they released an LP, there's no way they're playing all 9 songs from that
That's a fair point.
LP. Yeah.
Well, and
So
interestingly, I would gamble. I don't know if you want to take this money, Eric. I
yeah.
I actually gambled. The woman before the encore last night was like, "Do you think they're going to play Hanging Around?" And I was like, "Yes." Um, pretty confident in that. But I would actually the two I would really gamble on them continuing to play are Spaceman in Tulsa first and Under the Aurora to start the encore.
Yes.
Because what they've done is the beats of those songs, the intro beats,
Yep.
are the walkout music essentially for Spaceman for the
Okay.
first song and then for the encore. So they have sort of integrated those as like in the way they would use the when they did Palisades Park as the encore. They would use that sort of intro music as sort of the walkout. They've done that here. And so I tend to think they're probably going to stick with that for at least the rest of this tour.
I agree, and I
Yeah.
actually think that's, and I haven't seen the show yet, but I think those are great choices. I think
They
of
work.
placement,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
where do you put Spaceman and Tulsa? I think starting off and Under the Aurora leading the encore, I think is great.
Yeah. I thought the placement was great. I thought all the songs sounded great. I really my favorite in terms of in terms of hearing them was Under the Aurora. That really kind of got me and I really liked that a lot.
Yeah, for those that are listening when we first post this, the from the show before, it might be from your show too, but the show before was where?
Jersey, PNC
Jersey.
Bank Art Center in Holmdel.
So maybe it was, I think it was that one. Well, anyway, on YouTube there's some Under the Aurora recordings, and I'll tell you what, watching him play it live, and sometimes, with the new songs, he especially in the beginning of the tours, if they're new songs and early in the tour, he does it with passion because I think it's fun. It's a challenge. He's trying to get the crowd into it so they recognize that they do have other music and maybe they'll go buy it and know what he's doing. But I was listening Under the Aurora live, and I thought it was so good that now I'm loving the song more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's part of it. It's funny, the same lady who was like, this is about the why you don't. The same lady who was asking about Hanging Around when they started Under the Aurora, she was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Well, it's a new one." She's like, and I'm like, "It's a really good song." And she's like, I think she may have had a couple drinks by the time we got to the encore. But I don't know. It is what it is. But people were generally, I actually think those are good spots too, because people are feeling energetic. They're already standing. As I said, we were kind of struggling. I think the crowd was struggling with the heat a little bit. There was a little bit of a sitting crowd at points.
Yeah.
But again, in part just literally because it was like, I don't know, it's hot. But yeah, I liked all of that. But I think part of what's happening from a setlist perspective and why I didn't maybe go super deep into these songs is that the setlists have been relatively consistent because I think they're doing the 5 new songs, and then they've got another chunk of songs that I think as headliners in these sheds, they feel like they're going to keep playing, like they feel an obligation to do, right? Mr. Jones, Long December, Rain King, Colorblind, Hanging Around.
Yep.
They're going to play those songs.
Here,
Omaha, Round Here, and so there is a little bit where you can almost see the setlist construction. I was excited to have Imi on at some point and just talk about setlist construction because I know they think about this every night. From a construction perspective, you just kind of start going, there's just not a lot of space for the shows to change a crazy amount because they're presumably enjoying playing the new songs. They want to keep playing them. That's great. Then you want to feel like you either want to or should keep playing some of these other songs. And you just sort of lose the real estate. And they played like an hour and 45 minutes, which I think given the length of the tour, someone's like, play 2 hours. Well, that's 3 other songs. So that's not exactly going to change the world. But also an hour 45 when they're going to be playing for another few months. They got to save their voice. Adam sounded, I think, really good last night, but there were times where he could even, I don't know if he was coughing a little bit. So maybe he's just got a little under the weather or something. But you got to save that because no Adam, no show. So you got to save that voice.
And we'll talk about some of the quote unquote alternate songs that they've been playing more than others because we have the stats. But to your point, there's basically 9 songs that they're 100% playing every night. All the ones you mentioned, plus Holiday in Spain, and then also the one.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote you a text the other day. What's so interesting is and I think it originally even got picked up on social media by the Swifties and by whatever people that do when he did. I think Jeff Harkness saw it the first time he played it in Vegas, if
Yes.
I remember
Yeah, yeah.
correctly,
Yeah.
and they've been doing it ever since. I
Yeah.
think every time. I think every
Pretty much.
time.
There's that might have been a couple last year where they didn't
Yeah,
play it, but like 99% of the time, maybe 8% of the time.
yeah. So so I say that because there are people that are jumping on Reddit who maybe they're Reddit users and then they're going to see the show and they casually like the Crows, maybe like I casually like other bands. And they came on, they're like, oh, they sounded so good. I didn't realize how good. And it was really cool. They played the Taylor Swift song and it was like hot new news and they did it and that he did it just for them. And so sometimes I think, put things in perspective that even among people that consider themselves fans, not just casual listeners, like they have no idea that you wouldn't know unless you're following. So
Yeah, no, it's something where again, it's a hard thing to balance because you do have that thing of like who are the people that are following these things and who are like again the picking on the same woman, but she was like when I told her I was like, this is probably what the encore is going to look like. She's like, you've been doing the research, and I'm like, I just follow them on Instagram. The set lists come up.
yeah,
Like
well,
it's not.
you should have
I
also
don't think of it as much, but again, other people don't follow every band they go see. I don't follow every band I go see on Instagram.
no, and they want you're a big concert goer. Although I know
Yeah.
you, one thing I like about you is that you also see a lot of new bands, right? You go to the Underwater Sunshine Fest and
Mhm.
whatever, but correct me if I'm wrong. So I did see Billy Joel once, and I
Mhm.
saw when he did the recent tour. They had a TV special. I don't know if they edited some songs out. Billy Joel, and partly because he had so many singles, he plays mostly greatest hits, right? I don't even know if
Pretty
he plays
much.
any deep dives at
He
all.
does. He like, and actually, I'm in a Billy Joel base. I somehow end up in a Billy Joel Facebook group at some point. That's a hilarious one sometimes. But um, he when he's touring, no, he's not touring right now because
Yeah.
he's sick or something. But um, he'll kind of play pretty. It's similar thing. He plays pretty heavy greatest hits. It'll be similar. There's a selection of deep cuts that he sort of rotates basically.
Okay.
So
And it's my
you know,
understanding that Springsteen, who I know maybe has one of the most rabid fan bases for his concerts, right? They have to see him every year when he comes. And I know he didn't have as many radio singles, but from what I understand, he does. Because I think Adam kind of mentioned this, because he thought Palisades Park should be like his Springsteen song in that the crowd should go nuts when he plays it, even though it wasn't like a big single. But from what I understand, Springsteen gets away with playing a lot of deep cuts and the crowd goes nuts about it. Now, I don't know if that's true. I've never been to a Springsteen
I
show.
think that's true. Well, I've only seen Bruce once, but yeah, I mean, part of it's again just relationships to the songs and the length. I mean, there's just I think everyone's got a different relationship. Albums, people have different relationships to artists, right? In terms of
Yeah.
what's meaningful to them. Springsteen's someone who had a longer career, sort of at the like top ish,
Yeah.
and a lot of albums. He released a lot of albums, not timeline wise, not actually probably not wildly different, but um
And maybe Springsteen fans that go to the concerts every year have a higher percentage of his album collection than even Counting Crows fans that go every year, but maybe still only own the first three albums or something like
yeah.
that.
And he
I was
plays
just
longer.
wondering.
Bruce has always sort of played a long time, but he also is. It's more of a musically. It's a different shit.
Oh, and
Everyone's
he used to do
different.
3 hours. Yeah, I guess I was just saying I felt bad in a way for the Crows that they almost feel that they have to. I mean, they like playing it, but they probably, if had given their choice, would play maybe have fans that don't need as many as they had. So anyway, long story short, yeah, if there's
Yeah,
9 songs that they definitely play every night from the quote unquote hits, plus 5 from the new releases, that gives you 14 out of 19. So then you're dealing with basically 5 that are interchanged, although they've rotated in some kind of random ones, and I'll talk about what I hope to see. But for the most part, 3 or 4 of those 5 slots are going to Miami, Hard Candy, and Richard Manuel and Washington Square. Those 4
yeah.
they've
Hard
been
Candy they played a
playing.
lot. Mrs. Potter's a good bit too. There's a
Yep.
kind of again, if you want to just you look at the construction, right? It's Spaceman and Tulsa to open, then one or two songs different. Hard Candy was in the slot for me. Then Mr. Jones, uh, A to Z, Omaha. Then there's another spot that was St. Robinson. I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Eric. I know you always want to hear St. Robinson, so I'm sorry I
Yeah,
got
but
your
I
St.
did get to see.
Robinson.
I did get to hear it in Ireland last time, so I saw it pretty recently.
Yeah,
So
you'll hope, and hopefully you get it this summer too.
yeah.
And then then you get into, again, it's another block. There's an acoustic set. Again, last night it was Big Yellow Taxi in Washington Square. Big Yellow Taxi with the Bryson and Bozious kids on maracas, which
Yep.
was great. Um, and then it's kind of, again, there's that and I think they've been playing. Had they not played Miami every night? There's been a couple nights where they haven't
There's
played
been
Miami.
like basically every night. There's a couple they haven't, maybe
Okay.
one or two. But yeah, that's almost my yeah. If I had to criticize, and not even criticize, if I had my vote and I was in the tea room with Adam and Emmy, I guess what I think is interesting is how does Richard Manuel get played almost 75% of the time. But then, so here's a great one they played. Out of all these, the one I want to hear the most is High Life.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they play High Life just once, but Richard Manuel 7 times? It's interesting.
Yeah.
You'd want it more, or they played Come Around once. So I'm like, that's not a regular song. So maybe they had to practice it or whatever. Maybe they do know it, but how does that make it? But then, you know, right, Washington Square is played 7 times. I'm not sure
That's a
outside of New York. So
it'd be a fun conversation to have there. Yeah, I'd be interested in that too. I will. The other thing I'd say that I was sort of struck by was that maybe the lighting.
yes,
The lighting was very professional and very like cool. It felt like it was a little more. They have tended to use, not that there were no lights, but I think a little bit of a less heavy light rig in the past few years, and this felt like more of a light show. There's a very
okay,
specific lighting for colorblind and different things that, which was nice. It was great. It made it the set feel a bit more like a show than I felt like a
hmm.
Counting Crows show um normally goes towards. It goes towards a little bit more like, hey, like we're keeping things kind of basic and kind of focusing here. We're like, oh, they've maybe, again, I think taking part of it is taking their role as a headliner of these sheds or as a responsibility and being like, hey,
Oh,
let's up the lighting game. Adam came out wearing all white last night. It was a very striking outfit.
yeah.
He was in a white denim jacket, white t-shirt, white jeans. It was noticeable. I liked it. But it was just very like, I don't know. I'm used.
He's
It's one of those
probably,
things. I'm just used
but
to certain other things. I was just
yeah, like
surprised.
that pants that he's been wearing a lot to strike. But although this would be a show that he can wear an outfit, right? So I'm guessing he stayed at home, right? So
Yeah,
this is a show that he could wear an outfit that he doesn't have to bring to Europe. You know,
true, true.
like you're
Easy to
right when you
easy to keep that around. You're not
yeah.
worried about getting dirty or,
Because
yeah,
right, I think one of them was talking. Well, I mean, it's like all bands, but when they go to Europe, most of them, I don't know, if they're bringing 4 sets of clothes. You don't, you
yeah,
can't bring. Yeah, yeah, that's always it's almost like backpacking across Europe, right? If you backpack 2 months across Europe, you have limited outfits. It's kind of for them. I mean, how many suitcases or whatever do they have? So,
yeah.
okay. Did you have any other song? By the way, it's interesting we said about the lighting. I have noticed again, I don't watch them all the time, and I was just thinking recently how there was like a couple years, basically 16 to 19, that I was like, I don't know why I didn't go to those shows or even look into it. It might have been because they didn't have new music. I wasn't hosting a podcast, but I also think I was just caught up in career and young kids, which
Yeah.
sometimes distracts you because I was like, geez, they played a bunch of songs from Somewhere in the Wonderland. I would have liked to seen that. And it was only 45 minutes away. But I have noticed that some tours they will have like more lighting going on or more in the background, and some they don't.
Yeah.
It seems yeah, maybe sometime, yeah, whatever. Maybe someone just came up with the idea, like you said, or headlining. What was your? Oh, two questions. One of them. Any other strong opinions about the new songs live? Except you said you really were impressed with Under the Aurora. You liked the placement of all of them, but anything that you were like, oh wow, so glad the, you
No,
know,
well, he did talk about with Love from A to Z before the song, sort of very gushingly about it. So my wife turned to me and she was like, I think he's gonna propose. I was like,
maybe.
no. But if anyone was wondering if that A to Z was a metaphor or something, it's like, no, it's to his lady, and that's lovely. It's kind of what we expected. I don't.
Although I
That's a
feel
big
like he
shock.
said once, I have to look that, and I really want to ask him this if we don't get a 100% validation. That I think one of the reasons he loves the song and he's kind of obsessed with it is I think almost all of the lyrics are supposed to be written precisely to her and precisely to the fans. Like that
Okay,
every
that makes sense. That would make
line has like a double meaning. Like I might, I might leave you a lot, but I won't leave you alone. Like because he
right.
leaves her a lot when he goes on tour, but he's also leaving the fans a lot when he sees them, has a connection, and go and leaves. I'm just
Well,
using
then
that
he
line
could have
as an
told us he
example.
loved us before he sang us that song if he wanted to.
but
But no,
but
it was the song was really good, and it's
yeah.
yeah, I think it's a great tune. He talked also about it's interesting. He's like, these themes about like traveling America comes back to my childhood, which we've heard him talk about before.
Mm.
But he's like, these themes recur a lot in my songs, and it's like that is true. That is, he could
Yeah,
tell that story about going about his dad taking off from Boston, driving to Texas before like 3 or 4 different songs. But it's part of just again the nature of being a fan for 30 years. Themes are going to recur. You talk about what you talk about. You talk about your
yeah,
life
like the
experiences.
angels and stuff. But you're right.
Yeah,
That was almost something that it was always there, especially of him like name dropping places and partly because of his travels.
yeah,
But really starting in, I shouldn't say starting, but it became more evident in Somewhere Under Wonderland, right? I think.
yes,
And then
yeah.
also because Earthquake Driver has, but part of that too, and definitely the new songs about right elevator boots going to the next town, and here we go.
Yeah.
But you're right. So that's an interesting through line, as they would say, right? That he had wanderlust as not wanderlust, sorry, but traveled town to town as a kid, and that has stayed
Yeah.
with him because he's still traveling town to town
Hmm.
almost every year. So
Yeah. So maybe that's we'll do a best traveling song at some point ranking.
I get what
Um.
he's saying though, not to get too much into Psyche, but about that. I know he's used to it, but I've been thinking a lot about what you're saying and hearing him talk about some of the struggles that he's had, and he loves being on the road. And I know post pandemic, he loves seeing the fans and that people still supported him and
Right.
supported the band. Um, and I guess I'm projecting a little bit that I know he loves whatever. He talks about having fun in New York City and thinks it's the best city because he can go see a show and the restaurants. But I think he has a bit of a homebody part of him,
Hmm.
and that being in the tour forces him out. He
Hmm.
loves it also, but if he didn't agree every year, right? It's not like okay, I'm canceling the tour because I'm gonna, travel South America or travel. I guess he went to the farm, but you know what I'm getting at. So,
Yeah. And there's that
um,
to pull a line. Right. I didn't go outside yesterday.
yeah, from Miller's Angels, exactly.
Right.
That's what made me think, and I do think he's a bit of a homebody in that, and we've talked about this that sometimes when he forces, himself, I think to in a house on the hill, and once he gets going, you can't stop him. But he
I
has
think
this,
some of us
yeah.
all have these dichotomies in us. Of
Mm,
like the things that make us ourselves sometimes we're resistant to because they can be kind of a trope and kind of a
yep.
and just because you're good at one thing or being a certain way or like being a certain way doesn't mean you want that every day. And sometimes that can be really extreme, right?
Yeah.
Again, the idea of like literally touring the world or not leaving your house are two pretty extreme things. But and all of us, I think, struggle. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe you and I both, Eric, would
Yeah.
say we both struggle with versions of that, like you know, not wanting to be one thing and having different takes on those things. And I don't know, like it's you
Yeah.
can
And
that energy that again to come back to the title. Have you seen me lately? I think we both sort
yeah.
of we relate to that stuff, and so that's why probably one of the reasons why we're fans and we're sitting here doing a podcast about this.
Yeah, and you can be great at something, and it's still mentally and physically exhausting too,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So when he
absolutely.
gets into the zone, whatever, but then he's like, I need my downtime or whatever.
Yeah.
You have not mentioned
Hmm.
your second favorite band, Gaslight Anthem. I think they did play yesterday.
They did. Oh, yes, they did.
So
They were
please,
awesome. They were great. I
okay,
mean, Gaslight. So Gaslight's coming out. if you need the details for the show, whatever time your ticket says, Gaslight will come out at that time, basically to the minute, and they'll play just about an hour. They played like a few minutes under an hour last night, like 56 minutes or something like
Okay.
that.
I guess that's kind of
Um,
normal when the Crows tour with somebody,
yeah,
right? That the opening does about an hour.
that's what, and like when they did the tour with Dashboard did
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
They were terrific. They played a lot of great songs. They were going deep into their catalog. I actually felt for them, they played a couple of their bigger songs, 59 Sound and 45, which are probably two of their, if you're picking two songs that people would know by the Gaslight Anthem, those are probably two. I actually felt like they took the opportunity by not playing for their fan base to
Okay.
go, we're going to get interesting with this. They played some deep stuff. They played a song called Dark Places that I really love that they had not played in a decade until this tour. And they decided at some point, they flipped a switch. They've been playing it every night. I was super stoked to hear it. It's a great song. Highly recommend it, gang. I really, I thought they were great. They made a joke about being on Long Island. Speaking of the Billy Joel, the Downeaster Alexa.
Right.
He
Right.
sang a little bit of Brian Fallon sang a little bit of the Downeaster Alexa in Get Hurt.
Okay.
But yeah, they were great. The fan base I thought was good. Obviously, look, not everyone was losing their mind, but that's fine. You sit down and enjoy it. There were a bunch of people standing up and having a good time, and I liked. Sometimes when you're at a show like that, you have the people who will be annoyed that someone is standing and enjoying the opener, and it just felt
Right.
it did feel like we all had kind of a nice energy of like, stand if you want, don't stand if you want, have a good time. It was a nice energy there. Adam did do a little bit of the Gaslight Anthem song High Lonesome has some very explicit Counting Crows references.
Oh.
Maria came from Nashville with a
Oh,
suitcase
right.
in
We've
her
talked
hand.
right around here.
I
Yeah.
always kind of sort of wished I looked like Elvis, to steal that line. But Adam has been incorporating a little bit of that into Round Here. He also did a new alt last night that, again, because we don't have tapes of all the shows, I don't know if he's done this before so far. It was similar to what he's done recently in the summers, but it was about some summertime songs. It was a fun kind of play on words, some summertime, little, play with the words there and
Yeah.
word test. That I liked. It was really good. I thought I talked last time. I really loved that version of Round Here they did in Central Park last year. This was it didn't hit me quite as strong, but it was great. And I loved it and highly recommend. Highly recommend. What am I saying? If you're going to see the Counting Crows, you'll enjoy Round Here, probably. But I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm recommending that to people, but seek out. I mean, if you're seeing, I don't know how many of them. They played Round Here like a week or two ago when I saw it, and it didn't have an alt in it other than a couple of lines of High Lonesome. This was longer, so keep an eye out. I guess that's what I'd say on videos of Round Here. Check
Did
one out. We'll try to
did
highlight it for you guys if there's anything crazy. There's no tapes on Nugs. That's maybe
Yeah,
the
that's
other thing
been
we
a
should
bit of
mention too.
controversy, but we'll see. But right
I don't know if
now,
it's a controversy. They kind of go back and forth with Nugs about whether they're going to put them up, and it seems like this year we're deep enough into the tour that I heard someone had said they talked to someone that it's going to happen at some point. I don't know, but they
but in the
haven't. I
last
haven't had them
couple,
yet, so I don't
but
know.
in the last couple of years, haven't they been all up except for the international ones? Haven't most of
Pretty
the
much.
U.S.
They've
ones been up?
21, 23, and 24, not in 22. But they've
Okay.
gone up
Okay.
pretty quickly, so that has made me a little nervous.
Okay.
Um, but it is
Okay.
what it is on that. That's I did see a tape up of Nashville on Dime, but I haven't downloaded it yet. I've just been busy. I've been listening, speaking of 90s rock bands, I'm going to see
Yeah.
Oasis this summer. So
Oh,
I've
cool.
been in a very deep Oasis dive because it had been a while. And I was kind of reminded of how much I love those songs, and I'm getting ready for that. So I've just been listening to Liam Gallagher all the time. So what can I
And
say?
then, and what can I say with the Under the Aurora, right? That kind of ties into slightly with the Brit
Mhm.
pop a little bit. The sound of that, or quickly that. I mean, obviously that's some.
In the
Um,
embers of one British cigarette that is burning from Noel
right.
Gallagher's, the headstock of Noel Gallagher's guitar, potentially.
Yeah.
Huh?
And what is it? The Under the Aurora? They talk about the British Eye, Ferris wheel, looking down on London, or something like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Um, did you tell me before? that this is the second time Dashboard is open for the Crows, or have they ever
No,
done
no,
it? Or
they
no?
hadn't done it before. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they have not done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of thought, all right, because I didn't follow them on tour all the time. So okay,
This is
well, I
very
think
exciting for me. I'm going once again on this tour because I was kind of like,
yeah.
what am I supposed to do? Not see these? I would go see if they were both playing headlining shows. I'd probably go each see them once in a summer. And so if they're both playing together, I get you know what I mean. It's may as well double it up.
Okay.
Um,
Well, anything else? Again, this was just a little. We've talked for 45 minutes,
I
but this
think
was
that's
just kind
it.
of
Yeah.
Crows news, and then we'll see if in the next 12 months, hopefully, we'll talk to James Campion. Maybe we will actually see that book over the next year or so. We're
Hopefully.
hoping,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. We got the movie, we got the tours. Now time to get the book. Also, I don't mind previewing the next
Second book.
show. What is that?
We have a book. We have a
Yeah, the
book.
book. Right, right.
Another book.
Yeah, the other book, the second book. Yeah, Please by Rain King, Jeff Harkness. It's funny. I don't, Jeff, if you're listening, somebody did some kind of YouTube. You know how they do YouTube shorts, or people put like videos up,
Mm.
and then they just put like photos from the album like every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody did that, and it was all like official band photos, and then suddenly it was the cover of Jeff's book. So I don't think he's going to mind though somebody using the book's likeness, because maybe it'll sell a copy or two by somebody seeing in a YouTube short.
And imagine the thirds of pennies getting paid for YouTube short plays.
Yeah,
Jeff's
exactly.
a reasonable man. He'll let that one go.
I don't mind plugging. I mean, you'll see it in your episode list soon anyway. But the next episode we are currently planning to release, we are going back to the album reviews, reviewing the next official release, which is what is it? Live at the New Amsterdam, live at the New Amsterdam, the Counting Crows live album, and Kyle Meredith joins us on that. So one of the most famous music journalists out there that doing long form with some of the best, not even the best, it's just everyone in the industry. So it was really fun having him on. So please listen to that episode. We'll release that in about 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, he's got some great stories about interviewing Adam, and we go we get really into New Amsterdam, really into it.
Thank you. So glad you had a good summer. I will also add when I do plan to see them this year, and I'll give my take when we wrap up the tour news at the end of the summer. So
yeah.
All right. See you next time on Sullivan Street. Thank you so much.